Alpha India 4, Charlie Oscar.
Alpha India 4 station. Come back with call sign. Was that the whole thing?
It's Alpha India 4, Charlie Oscar, AI4CO, and the name is Randy. I'm in Tallahassee, Florida.
Roger, Randy. Well, gosh, let me see. Yeah, you're running a kilowatt?
No, 500 watts.
You can't tell the difference. It sounds great. Tell me about your antenna system down there.
It's an inverted V off-center fed dipole.
And just out of curiosity, what is your SWR on your mid-band?
It's about 1.1 or something like that.
Well, that's pretty something special there. That's a good reading. Gosh, it's doing you great. Which way is it oriented, incidentally?
It's kind of oriented north-south.
Roger. Now, have you noticed a specific east-west capability more than the north-south?
No, actually, they seem to be about the same. A little while ago, I had a nice Qso with a gentleman in Boulder, Colorado.
Roger that. Roger that. I don't go west very well. I mean, I do go west, but not. I go east a lot better. This whole thing's set up for an East Coast operation, Montreal to Miami, Roger, with a hotspot in North Carolina.
So, Roger, so you're in Albany, Indiana?
That's correct. It's just across the Ohio River from downtown Louisville, Kentucky, Roger.
Oh, okay. Well, you have a great signal here. What are you running?
Oh, gosh. We're running a 990, a YEASU, older YEASU 990, pretty heavily modified, and SB 220 into a dipole, Roger.
Oh, Roger, yeah, that's a nice setup. It sounds very good. I'm on an ICOM 7300 and an L-Craft KTA 500 amplifier.
Roger. Well, the 7300 is just an outstanding radio right now. I am using a 7300 in addition to my 990. We're evaluating the difference between an older but a goodie and the more digital-oriented 7300. I have them on an AV switch, well, actually an ABCDEFG switch, and I have a little, gosh, what are we calling that thing? It's a... I got it here. So new, we don't even... A visual input source indicator. Now, have you any idea what a visual input source indicator is?
It must be some kind of flag that tells you which source is selected.
Pretty close, yeah. It is a 6-light jobber that is associated with my input selector. And input selector, I have the 7300, the 990. I have Rochester SDR, Milford, Pennsylvania SDR, Atlanta, Georgia SDR, and Arlington, Virginia SDR. So on the 6-position rotary switch, and then every time I move it around, the lights go, and the lights then have little names by them, which indicates exactly where I've gone, Roger.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of neat. So what do you think of the 7300 you're experimenting with?
Oh, it's an excellent radio, just beautiful. Now, I'm more familiar with it from the standpoint of the transmitter, because we probably set up at least 180 7300s in transmit mode, and so this is more or less we're kind of evaluating the receiver, since it is digital processing as opposed to the analog that the 990 is, Roger.
Oh, Roger. So how does the 7300 compare to the 990?
Well, I'll tell you, the 990 is it's a beautiful radio. I haven't noticed yet the distortion differences that I would have thought I would have noticed on the digital side, and the noise ratio seems to be very similar, Roger. Now, I'm not on the 7300. I'm not running a preamp 1 or 2. I'm just in the attenuate mode, Roger.
Okay. Well, so far I've been really happy with mine. I had a 10-tech Eagle. I got the 7300 and sold the Eagle to somebody, and I like it. My other radio is a L-Craft KX3 with a 100-watt amp on it, and I switch back and forth between them, but to be honest, I think the 7300 is a more versatile radio.
Oh, roger that, roger that. I think you're right. It does have a lot of bells and whistles that I haven't even begun to evaluate. This may take. My Elmer was so nice to have me experiment with this radio, and I tell him, this experiment may take at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, well, have fun doing it. I actually have been toying with the idea of getting the ICOM 7610, but the price difference between the 7300 and the 7610, I could buy 2 more 7300s.
Yes, you can, but the thing is that none of those 7300s will have a drive control.
Well, this is true, and none of them will also have the, what do they call it, the digi-tune, the automatic filter that tunes when you change frequency.
Roger. The drive control on the 7610 is just an outstanding device that actually it kind of picks up where the 7300 leaves off. I mean, you can push the 7300. If you force the ALC on the 7300, you can get 2 dB, a dB and a half dynamic range, but you're pushing that ALC. Now with the 7610 with drive, it is specifically set up to crunch dynamic range, and what I mean by that is if you have a 3 dB dynamic range, your average percent of peak modulation is going to be 80 to 85%. Well, drive, we have conducted tests, and not quote official tests, but most of my stuff is sidewalk tests, but we have taken that 7610 drive all the way up to 100%, and at 100% your dynamic range is about a half a dB. And that is to say that I'm looking at your signal on a VU meter. Well, when you get to a half a dB of dynamic range, instead of that VU meter flopping around like normal, it looks more like a plate voltmeter. It just kind of dips there between 0 to a half a dB and back up to 0. It's amazing.
Okay. So you've had a chance to sit down and play with the 7610. Did you experience any issues with it, or were you quite happy playing with the radio?
I love to play with the radio, with somebody else's radio. That's the beauty about what I do. It's always somebody else's radio, pretty much, And so we did have an interesting experiment with drive, because I was just curious what the maximum capabilities of that little device would be. And like I say, if you would choose to run it that way, and I don't know why you would, because it's just so fat, but you can still understand what the words are, but it's just a half a dB of dynamic range is just too much. You want to get, I had a nosebleed. I need to get down to 2.5 to 3 dB dynamic range. Roger.
Oh, okay. Roger. Well, I won't hold you, James. I appreciate the conversation so far, but I've got some stuff I've got to do this afternoon. So thank you very, very much for the Qso, and hopefully we'll talk again.
Roger. Now, what part of Florida are you in?
Oh, I'm in Tallahassee, in the northern part of the state, in the Panhandle, the state capital. Over.
Oh, Roger. Yes, my brother lives in Tallahassee. Well, thanks for checking in, man. If you get a chance, join us next Friday. I'd love to have you, and between now and then, have a great rest of this Friday and a great weekend. So 3's to you. KC9VKV.